So the lively discussion continues. Denise, I've just watched your bit where you wondered why I have it, I think you said on top of the presentation or something like that. Remember that it is actually not the first thing out of your mouth that you would have, if you followed the manual, you would have done the whole of step one, which includes where and how to be, what to do, what to say, and what to get them to do. Now also, the yes sets is one of 4 ways I teach you how to enroll. And although I highly encourage you to practice all of them so that you have more choice, as opposed to, yeah, I don't want to do that, it's not my thing, to practice it to the point where you're comfortable with it, so that you can then choose from a place of being more authentic and actually pick the enrollment methods that suits you. Now, I love your comment about salesy. I'm also, don't really like salesy stuff, but you have trained with me in Sydney twice and in Bali, and you here. Now, I am an active user of yes sets, and if you had experienced me as salesy, I doubt that our paths would have run along as long as they have. So I'm just saying that when you become comfortable with these, and when you spend 2 weeks to prepare for an impromptu presentation, and you really think about your yes sets, and you practice them until you're comfortable, and they eventually just become part of the conversation, then people don't typically experience them as salesy. Sometimes I make fun of them, and people kind of get it, and it's so as to your purpose for yes set, the sole purpose of a yes set is to build rapport with your audience. And that's why I want you to practice it, so that you can be so comfortable with it, so that your voice doesn't even change, or your attitude, or your energy, or your nervousness, or nothing spikes. There's nothing to alert the audience unconsciously. Something unnatural happening up there with her. I don't quite know what it is, but it just feels a bit off, which is what happens when we are not comfortable delivering material. That used to be my downfall in the early days of presenting, when I did actually force myself to go into the sales part of my workshop or presentation. Listen, ultimately, if you do what you do for a hobby, then don't bother about what I have to say. If you, however, like I know some of you, want to expand your business, then wouldn't you do what you can in a real and authentic way? That's also why we did the keys first, to build rapport with your audience. And for me, the answer to that question is yes, 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 and yes. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to build rapport with my audience. And as we said right up front, can you use these techniques to manipulate people? Absolutely, and people do. It's a fact. It's the things called sales training, is to manipulate people. And if you mean by manipulate getting them to make a decision this way instead of that way, then absolutely. So for me, I'm back to the awareness that presenting, I believe, is a privilege. And we spoke about leadership, and leadership is leading people from one place to another. So Denise, if you believe in your material as much as I think you do, then consider, let me ask you the question this way. If it was possible that by doing a yes set in step 2, that people would have more rapport with you and be more inclined to follow your leadership in your course or your seminar or your retreat, and therefore get more value out of it, or get more Denise out of it, or get more shifts out of it, would you be willing to do it? Now, that question I think is going to be very hard for you to say no to, so I could also have used as a yes set, but I really just want to have a conversation with you around potentially expanding the narrow framework some of you might have put on yes sets, just because it is unnatural, and because some of the examples that you kicked about on the call weren't the most effective yes sets by any stretch of the imagination. Hope that helps in some way. Looking forward to continuing the ongoing lively conversation about these ideas.